There is a saying that goes, people always want improvement but never want change. When I first heard of Spectre Divide, I was both intrigued and reluctant at the same time. I heard the game was being advised by Shroud, and that did interest me. I do have a degree in game design and have worked in the gaming industry, so I do know playing a lot of games doesn't always transfer into making a good game, but sometimes it does. So I really was curious what he would make since he's played at a professional level in this genre. But the thing that turned me off from the game was the mechanic duality, where you can control two characters. It seemed gimmicky in a way to just be unique and different. Also, when I saw the graphics, it really made me feel like the game was trying too hard to stand out. The only way to really know this, though, was by actually playing it, so I did that. I will get into duality in a second, but the first thing you will most likely encounter is the buy menu. It does feel like a lot right off the bat, especially since you're buying 2 guns at a time, one for each of your specters you control. And I would recommend pressing E to get rid of the menu so it just shows all the guns in one page. But you're probably wondering, where's the AK, where's the Phantom, right? If you look in the tier 4 column, there is a Blackout and an M67 Reaver. The Blackout would be your M4A1 or Phantom. It doesn't one-shot headshot, but has really good recoil. The Reaver is like the AK-47 or the Vandal, an AR that can one-tap while still having decent spray. But let's get into the biggest mechanic here, duality. Duality is a mechanic where you can swap between 2 playable characters. You probably are thinking that controlling 2 people is overwhelming, when it really isn't, and you get used to it within just a few rounds. To swap, you simply just press X, and a cool tip is while setting up during the buy phase, you can also press M to open up the map, and you can left click to teleport your first Spectre or right click to teleport your second Spectre. One huge mechanic though is the V key. V will throw a disc on the floor, sending your idle Spectre to that location. One cool thing about this is you can toss a disc onto places you normally couldn't get to. For example, a catwalk without any access otherwise. Or you can even throw it through a gated fence to get to the other side. This goes into further strategies which we will touch up on in a sec, but let's talk about the team size and maps. The game is 3v3 instead of 5v5. One quick thing that I realized about this is that you have a bigger impact on the game, meaning your rank reflects more of your performance and takes out some of the RNG that comes with random teammates. Additionally, this makes it easier to find 2 friends to team up with, which is just a nice quality of life. And there are 2 less people making callouts, so communication is just cleaner overall. And this also fits perfectly with tactical shooters, as pretty much all the maps are based off of the 4-square map design. For example, let's take a look at Dust 2 from Counter-Strike. If I were to draw lines in the main areas players can access, it should look similar to 4 squares. The vertical lines on this map are the main pushing lanes, and the horizontal lines in this case are more rotational or lurking lanes. And you see this 4-square map design everywhere. For example, Mirage, Anubis, Ancient, Vertigo, Lotus, Icebox, Breeze, Ascent. And yes, there are maps that deviate from this, but are still heavily inspired by the same design. And what's nice about 3v3 is that you have 1 person per lane or site on defense. In 5v5, usually you will see defense going into a 2-1-2 formation or sometimes a 1-1-3. When enough intel or certain callouts have happened, the defense will start rotating. Offense has a lot more options, as maybe you will send all 5 to one site for a full push, or you might spread out to try to get a pick. You might send 3 to long and 2 to cat for a split push, or you might send 4 to one site and have 1 lurk to get intel or pick off enemy rotators. Let's take a look at Spectre Divide and the map called Commons. It resembles a 4-square map design, but it's a little different. If you look at mid here on defense, mid can fully see all the choke points entering into A site while simultaneously being able to look into market, which is like another mid lane dedicated to B. Offense will have to deal with mid by either killing him or using utility like a smoke if they ever want to get to A. And this is a big decision on offense right now if they want to bring their other Spectres with them and fully commit, or leave them behind so they can teleport out and attack the other site very quickly. And since mid can quickly rotate by foot to either A or B, it makes this map harder to fake push since he isn't pressured into rotating out early. So a defensive setup might look something like this, where a big X is an active Spectre and a small X is an idle Spectre. If you notice the red X on B, he also has his idle Spectre in a safe spot near site A. So if the A player gets hit by either a push or he sees the Zeus, which is the bomb or spike in this game, the player on B can swap to his other Spectre and help reinforce A. He can also press V to throw his disc, bringing both of his characters fully committing to a defense on A. And the original A player can do the same, so now there are 4 Spectres defending in total, where mid can come help reinforce or go for a lurk. Defense does have pressure to bring both of their Spectres, because if they don't and the active one dies, then the second one has to run by foot. Having the ability to teleport across the map and bring both of your Spectres together on a push is a huge game changer and opens up a ton of possible new strategies. I think the biggest impact Duality adds is how it changes the rotation game. You can attack or gain intel on 2 parts of the map, or have both in the same spot to commit to a full attack or defense. Once you commit, you lose a huge amount of rotational power though, and it becomes a big decision that could feel like a gamble either way you go. And it is just plain fun to have a second life in the round while also having more intel. There are also barriers in the map called reveal walls that if an enemy player crosses them, they will be revealed to you as if you have wall hacks. This is to prevent people from trying to rush into enemy territory to kill off the idle Spectres that players aren't using at the time. And there is also another countermeasure. When your idle Spectre hears gunshots or footsteps nearby, it will display a Spectre warning on your screen, meaning it might be a good time to swap and check for threats. This warning is triggered by a pretty big distance, so it gives you time to put your current character in a safe spot. And if you're watching streamers or videos out there, a majority of people are ADSing, which is right-clicking to aim down sight. The hipfire so far feels fairly clunky and is even a disaster at long range. I mean, you are able to tap with an AR with hipfire, but ADSing, even while moving, feels 10 times better for both tapping and spraying. Hipfire might really only be for shotguns and maybe some SMGs, but even with pistols, I've found myself ADSing practically every time. Except for the Carbon, which is the base pistol you start with. That one is pretty good with hipfire and feels like a Glock or a classic. You can also press 5 to zoom in a little bit more, which I wish there was a setting that just kept it zoomed in on all my guns forever, because it just feels tedious and I usually don't do it because I'm lazy. While ADSing, you also don't make footsteps and walk at a slower pace than running, so this does change holding and peeking angles quite a bit. I see most people, including Shroud, peek while ADSing at the same time, which means if you're holding an angle, getting that headshot might become much easier than what we're usually used to, and could be harder to go against because jiggle peeking with hipfire feels unreliable. However, this is also countered a little bit as the person holding the angle has a harder time getting cover after the kill, as he is most likely ADSing, making trades more accessible. At least that's my experience with the sniper rifle in here that's equivalent to the Scout or Marshall. I do like this overall feel to peeking and holding angles though, as it somewhat tones down the ceiling on gunplay and puts a bit more emphasis on outthinking or outplaying your enemy. And as far as sponsors and utility goes, which a sponsor is the equivalent to an agent in Valorant, it does feel like you pick an agent from Valorant, but they work like CS. And what I mean is, yes, you do have some sort of a role like being a controller or a sentinel. However, the abilities feel like CS. You throw them as if they were grenades instead of, let's say, opening a map to place your smoke or being right next to a corner to flash like Phoenix does. I really like how much faster and reactive this feels. The only difference is when I throw utility, it doesn't take into account any of my movement. For example, in CS, when you are running or jumping or even backpedaling, the utility you are throwing will vastly change in its velocity and arc. In Spectre Divide, the throw is always the same no matter what movement you were doing. I feel the CS one gives more options, but what I like about Spectre Divide is that it probably puts a lot less pressure into memorizing smokes. It's really important in Counter-Strike to know how to line up maybe your crosshair or your character's hand model to an exact certain pixel, then do a running jump throw to get a smoke, to go over a building and land perfectly into the mid window blocking the enemy sniper. This does add a lot of depth and strategy to the game, but after so many years, I only remember like 2 of them and just don't care to look them up anymore. And Spectre Divide utility throwing is really easy, as you almost always have a way to throw it while in safety, and also it is fairly easy to calculate, and it actually reminded me of Super Smash Bros. A lot. My favorite part of Smash is that every character has the exact same controls, but each character does its own take on that move, like a forward smash or even an up special, which is almost always a last resort way to get verticality. Whereas traditionally, every fighting game has unique combos and moves per character, making it a huge task to learn something new. So I honestly will take this over having to learn 50 smokes, and it's not as slow as Valorant, where you have to open the map every time. This feels like a much better and modern take on tactical shooters. So now I can take a break for a few months or even years and come back and not have to memorize a ton of pixel perfect alignments just to compete, while also being able to throw util instinctively mid-fight. There are some negatives with the game as well. The economy is similar to CS, but I wish it was a little more fruitful since we do have less rounds. If you full save the second round, you won't have enough for a full loadout the third round, which is the same as CS. You will have your rifles and armor, but you will be lacking util. I wish we could just lock in on round 3 if the decision on round 2 was to full save. I think this does work in CS because it adds variety and economical strategy, but there are about 2/3 of the rounds in Spectre Divide, so I think a little boost in economy would be nice, or just give us more rounds per match when ranked comes out. Some people also want to customize their gun loadout because a lot of the guns pretty much have one really good gun and one that is subpar or even not that great, and it comes with the bundle. I can go both ways, as it does add variety to the game, though there are things I would like to customize because I feel like it takes forever to actually get high tier loadouts. For example, I really like buying the Tempest and Cyclone combo. One is a great DMR and the other is a fairly well-rounded AR. I also get to practice tapping and spraying with each one. And for a more eco-friendly approach, I would love to combine the Cyclone with, let's say, the Buzzsaw, which is similar to a P90. So I have 2 automatic guns at an affordable price that work at different ranges. And this would take my Trident spot because, you know, like, who the hell uses burst fire unless it's like a classic or a Glock, right? I think being able to customize a loadout would be nice as long as they find some balance. As much as I just want a Reaver every single round, I think it would make this another CS or Valorant as far as gunplay goes. Because yes, I don't get what I want every round, but that also applies to the enemy. So it does introduce much more chaos to the game, and these unexpected situations keep me on my toes. Also, people are talking about how they do not like the character models and want it more like Valorant, where the agents have a dedicated model. So you know when you're fighting like a Reyna or a Jet, but I think it works just fine in Spectre Divide. For one, there aren't any ultis, and the abilities are played like CS, where you aren't really thinking if the enemy has a flash or a smoke grenade. You tend to just react when it happens, and in Spectre, I am instinctively able to tell if it's a frag grenade versus a flash grenade pretty instantaneously. So I feel like they went in the right direction because pimping out my tune sounds really fun, and you can actually see your other Spectre in-game. And yes, you can turn down the volume of your teammate's voice as a whole, but you cannot turn them down individually, which can be annoying because you have to constantly go back to your settings menu instead of just being able to click on their name in the scoreboard. And adding some workshop where I can practice random stuff or just for content creation would be nice. Having to have a full 6-player lobby to start a custom game is kind of whack. Some people are also saying that the game feels slow since it's 3v3 on fairly big maps, but if you're using the teleports, this game actually feels pretty fast. If a bomb site is hit, you can immediately reinforce it while being on the other side of the map, and when you die, you get to play again. Also, offense tends to hit more aggressively due to the 40-second counter on the reveal walls. All in all, though, I am having a blast. I am really enjoying this take on the tactical shooters. I feel the main negatives of this game that bother me tend to be more technical issues and gameplay mechanics. So far, my favorite sponsor to play is the B person, Bloom Technologies. She can put up a see-through wall, which is great if you're planting or defusing the bomb. Her heal is nice as you get 2 charges and can heal yourself or an ally. And she has a smoke that also damages enemies, so it doubles as a molly and it doesn't hurt you. If you haven't played this game, I highly recommend it. The learning curve is actually incredibly short at first, and as you play, you will realize how much depth there actually is.